Hello everyone and welcome back to Almost There, a Twisted Tale novel audiobook series here on Disney Magic Zach. I'm your host Zach Campbell and today we're reading chapter 3 entitled Tiana. Now if you did miss my recent videos, I will leave the playlist down below. We've read the prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2. All very exciting stuff. I don't want to give too much away in case you do want to check it out, but feel free to go and check it out and catch up if you are new here, and if you are returning to this series, welcome back, and we're super excited to dive into this. Chapter 3 is entitled Tiana. The Ninth Ward, New Orleans, Thursday, February 1927, 5 days before Mardi Gras. Tiana couldn't think of a better way to wake up than to the aroma of salty bacon wafting through the air. She sucked in a deep breath and blew it out with a sigh. The promise of a hearty breakfast of buttery grits, fluffy eggs and thick, crispy bacon beckoned, but the remaining tucked underneath her covers. Oh no, that's not what that says. Alright, let's start that again. Oh. Tiana couldn't think of a better way to wake up than the aroma of salty bacon wafting through the air. She sucked in a deep breath and blew it out with a sigh. The promise of a hearty breakfast of buttery grits, fluffy eggs and thick, crispy bacon beckoned, but she remained tucked underneath her covers with her eyes closed. She basked in the feel of the warm sun caressing her face as it shone bright through her windows. The jaybirds flittering about outside chirped songs of cheer, a happy soundtrack for what was sure to be a stellar day. Tiana, baby, come to breakfast. Tiana's eyes opened, and a smile as wide as the Mississippi River stretched across her face. I'm on my way, Daddy, she called. It had been nearly a year since the Shadow Man made good on his promise to bring her daddy back to them. The sound of that deep baritone echoing throughout the house never failed to send grateful chills skittering along her skin. She sat up in bed and threw the well-worn quilt off her legs. Stretching her hands high above her head, Tiana rocked her neck back and forth, working out the kinks. Maybe she should put new pillows on her shopping list the next time she and Mama visited Krauss department store. Or maybe not. These pillows had served her fine for years. She had bigger plans in store for the profit she made from the humble restaurant she and her daddy had opened 3 months ago. Every cent she earned went back into her savings. Eventually she would earn enough to buy a larger building to house the grand restaurant she had always dreamt of opening. Not that she wasn't grateful for the supper club. It was a proper stepping stone, and it really was a feat that she and her father had been able to get the cosy little spot and open up so quickly. But Tiana had her sights on something bigger, and no one was getting in her way this time. Buoyed by the thought of her future, she hopped up from the bed and ran over to her bureau. She pulled out a yellow and white gingham dress along with a matching yellow ribbon to tie her hair back. Once done, she left the room in search of that bacon she'd been smelling. Well, look who decided to make an appearance. Good morning, her mother said from where she sat behind a worn wooden table, working the hand crank of her singer-sewing machine. Good morning, Mama. Tiana walked up behind her and clamped her hands on her mother's shoulders. She leant forward and planted a loud kiss on her cheek. Is there any breakfast left? Please tell me there is. Eudora nodded towards the cooker, where a plate covered with tinfoil sat next to the dented copper kettle that had taken up permanent residence on the cooker now that her daddy's big gumbo pot was at the restaurant. Tiana walked over to it, lifted the tinfoil and snatched a strip of bacon. Where's Daddy? She asked. Out in the garden. Oh shoot, I almost forgot, Tiana said. She grabbed another slice of bacon and covered the plate back up. Aren't you going to sit and eat? Her mother asked. I can't. I promised Daddy I would help pick some peppers and tomatoes for tonight. I'm working on a new recipe for my jambalaya. I want to give it a test run before we open for supper. She looked at her mother with a raised brow. You want to play guinea pig later today? Don't I always? Eudora answered with a laugh. Promise me you'll eat something more substantial soon, Tiana. You're too skinny. I promise. Tiana called as she lifted a black cloche. That's not what that says. Tiana... I promise, Tiana called as she lifted a black cloche from her hat from the... Oh my god. Words. Fucking fire. I promise, Tiana called as she lifted a black cloche from the hat rack near the door and secured it over her hair, sighing a little. The promises she made these days were so blissfully uncomplicated, it sort of made her wonder when the other shoe would drop. Standing up straighter, Tiana walked outside, automatically shielding her eyes from the unforgiving sun. She dropped her hand when she realised it wasn't necessary. The sun still shone, but it was muted by a murky haze that hung in the air. It was peculiar, to say the least. So close to the river, it wasn't all that strange to see a mist roll off the Mississippi early in the morning, but the fog typically lifted after a couple of hours. She looked up at the sky, wondering if maybe a storm was coming. Tiana snatched up one of the wicker baskets next to Daddy's rocker, then descended the back veranda steps and made her way to the small garden behind the house. She paused for a moment as she came upon him, his large frame bent over a row of black soil. Her heart expanded within her chest as a mixture of gratitude, wonderment and profound love emerged together, threatening to overwhelm her. She still could not believe her daddy was here. Despite her skepticism, it turned out that she could trust Dr. Facilier, at least when it came to holding up his end of their bargain. The day after Mardi Gras last year, her daddy had walked through their front door as if returning from a typical day's work. Her mother had greeted her and him as usual, with a hug and a kiss on the cheek, not missing a beat. Tiana smiled softly at the memory of running up to him, wrapping around her his large shoulders. She cried uncontrollably, unable to surpass her joy. Both her mama and daddy had started. Both her mama and daddy had stared at her as if she'd lost her ever-loving mind. But then they'd all burst out laughing, and that was that. Her family had been whole again. Tiana had decided that then and there not to question whatever mystical forces Facilier had called upon in order to bring about her daddy's return. He was here, and she was grateful for it, and she would never, ever take the time she had with him for granted. "How's it going, Daddy?" Tiana greeted as she sidled up to him where he knelt between the rows of freshly tilled earth. He looked over his shoulder and smiled that wide, handsome smile of his. "Morning, baby girl. You had your breakfast?" "I ate a little. I didn't want him to take too much time away from helping you harvest." He opened his massive palm, revealing a collection of small green seeds. "I decided to get these limes in the ground. Gotta get them planted before that summer heat arrives. Won't be long now." "Well, you stick your lima beans and I'll start picking the peppers and tomatoes for my new signature jambalaya. I think I finally got the recipe just the way I want it. It's gonna be a hit. Everything you make in that kitchen is spectacular. But Tiana, you know you don't have to spend so much of your time in there. Have some fun. Join your friends for a night out every once in a while. You planning on attending any Mardi Gras parties?" Tiana did her best to hide her exasperation. She couldn't understand why her parents were so determined to see her flouncing about the city with her friends, as if she couldn't afford to waste time on such frivolity. If the pressure she had taught her anything, it was that you never know when things might change. Better to focus on the things you could control and the people you love the most. "I don't have time for parties and Mardi Gras balls, Daddy. I have a restaurant to run, and besides, we have to get ready for our own festivities." He looked up over his shoulder again. "You remember what the J stands for? T&J's Supper Club, don't you? You're not the only one responsible for everything." "I know." They were bona fide business partners, just as she'd always imagined. But what kind of co-owner would I be if I skipped out on my duties to go frolicking around New Orleans? She clapped her hand on his shoulder and gave it a squeeze. "This restaurant is our dream, which means we both have an obligation to it." Her daddy patted her hands. His callous fingers were a testament to a life defined by long hours of hard work. "I can handle things on my own every now and then, baby girl. Especially it gives you the chance to paint the town red with your friends. Promise me you'll think about it." "I'll think about it," Tiana said smoothly. "But now I need to pick some tomatoes." She balanced the basket on her hip as she strolled along the row of evenly spaced tomato vines. As she mulled over which looked ripest, Her mind wandered to a place she seldom allowed it to go these days. A place where she was the kind of girl who attended parties and balls and soirees with her friends. Not that she'd ever been all that much of a party girl. Last party she attended had been her best friend Charlotte LeBus Mardi Gras ball the year before, and even then she'd been there to serve up some of her famous beignets to the guests. The ball where she met Naveen. Don't. Tiana chastised her errant imagination. She knew better to even think about him. She spent the best part of a year doing her best to avoid Naveen altogether. Unfortunately, that had become more difficult lately. He'd taken to join Charlotte down at the supper club, which meant Tiana now spent even more of her time hiding away in the kitchen, too afraid to go out into the dining area to chat with guests in case she ran into him. You just have to come up with more creative ways to avoid him. She released a mournful sigh. She'd known giving up Naveen would be the most difficult part of the deal she'd made with the Shadow Man. But ever since he'd started frequenting her restaurant, denying how she really felt about him had become downright unbearable. If there was a bright spot in all of this, it was that Charlotte had given up her pursuit of him. Now she and the prince shared an unlikely friendship that Tiana would have found charming if she could ever see past her own heartbreak. She swallowed past the knot of emotion clogging her throat. This was for Naveen's own good, for the sake of his very life. She would gradually come to terms with the fact that they could never be together. Hopefully. Banishing all thoughts of Naveen from her mind, Tiana got back to work. Once she was satisfied with the tomatoes she'd amassed, she turned to the vibrant green bell peppers, plucking several from the stalk and adding them to the basket. Tiana walked over to where James now tended the cucumbers. I'm going to head down to the restaurant and get started. She leant over and planted a kiss on his cheek. I'll see you there, Daddy. She turned to leave, but before she could take a step, her daddy grabbed her hand. When she looked back at him, Tiana suffered a flash of alarm at the odd look on his face. Is something wrong? Are you feeling okay? A gentle smile drew across his lips. There's nothing wrong, baby girl. In fact, everything is just right. I only wanted to tell you how proud I am of you and what you've done with the supper club. You made my dream come true, Tiana. A cluster of gratefulness, affection and unabashed joy blossomed within Tiana's chest. She set the basket on the ground and threw herself into her father's arms. Thank you, Daddy. It's my dream too, and there's no one else I'd rather share it with. All right now, Tiana said. Can't spend all day blubbering along. You're right, James said. You get to that restaurant and cook up that pot of jambalaya. I'll be along as soon as I get cleaned up. Tiana picked up a vegetable basket and began to hurry out in the garden, then turned around and threw herself into her daddy's arms again. What's that for? James asked. I'm just so happy you're here. And that is the end of chapter 3. It's very enjoyable. It really is. It's what if. It is what if, and it's very nice. I'm enjoying this a lot. Yeah. If you are enjoying this, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you are new here, and if you are returning, thank you for coming back and enjoying this with me. This is super fun. Like I said in the last one, I've been looking forward to doing this for quite a while, and yeah, I've been wanting to do this. So let's carry it on. Let's carry it on with the next episode next week. Come and join me next Wednesday for chapter 4. And if you do want more content in the meantime, there's plenty of videos around on the channel for all of you guys. From podcasts to videos to vlogs coming soon as well. So yeah, feel free to do what you got to do and have yourselves a magical day. Much love. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.